Have you ever held a Bible in your hands? It feels solid, complete, a cornerstone of Western civilization. But what if the Bible you know is just one version of a much larger, more complex story? Imagine a library where some books were hidden, others burned, and many simply forgotten for centuries. The 66 books of the Protestant Bible, or the larger Catholic and Orthodox canons, are the result of a long, contentious process of selection and exclusion. Many writings, now called the lost books of the Bible, were left out. These texts challenge our understanding of faith and history, revealing early Christianity as a vibrant, diverse movement. For every Gospel of Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John, there were others: Thomas, Mary Magdalene, Peter, even Judas. The story of these books is the story of what could have been. Uncovering these lost books is a real-life historical detective story. For centuries, we knew of them only through the writings of their opponents. That changed with discoveries like the Nag Hammadi Library in 1945, 13 ancient books, including the Gospel of Thomas and the Gospel of Philip. Soon after, the Dead Sea Scrolls were found, revealing the oldest Hebrew Bible manuscripts and unique texts like the Book of Enoch. These discoveries proved the world of Jesus was rich with religious texts and ideas. The Bible was forged in an environment of intense literary and theological activity. The lost books are missing puzzle pieces, revealing the diversity of early Jewish and Christian beliefs. Most know the Gospels as Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John, but there were many more. The Gospel of Thomas, for example, is a collection of Jesus' secret sayings focusing on inner wisdom rather than miracles or resurrection. The Gospel of Mary puts Mary Magdalene at the center, portraying her as a beloved disciple and spiritual leader. It challenges the traditional male-dominated hierarchy of the early church. The Gospel of Judas, discovered in 2006, flips the story. Judas is Jesus' most trusted friend, acting on Jesus' request. These texts offer radically different interpretations of Jesus and his message. They show early Christianity was far from unified. Each gospel reflects a unique community and vision of faith. The lost gospels invite us to see Jesus and his followers in a new light. Beyond the Gospels, there's a vast collection called the Apocrypha and Pseudepigrapha. The Apocrypha, books like Maccabees, Judith, and Tobit, fill in the gaps between the Old and New Testaments, telling stories of heroism, faith, and survival. The Pseudepigrapha, attributed to ancient figures like Enoch or Moses, explore cosmic journeys, angels, and apocalyptic visions. The Book of Enoch, for example, takes readers through the heavens and reveals secrets of angels and giants. These works shaped early Christian ideas about the supernatural and the end times. They weren't just curiosities, they inspired and influenced generations. Their exclusion from the Bible was a choice, not an accident. They remind us how much was left out. The lost books include forgotten histories, alternative acts, and letters from early Christian leaders. The Acts of Paul and Thecla, for instance, features Thecla, a woman who becomes a revered teacher and missionary, defying social norms. Apocalypses like the Apocalypse of Peter offered vivid visions of heaven and hell, shaping Christian imagination for centuries. Letters from groups later labeled heretical like Marcion's followers reveal just how diverse early Christianity was. These texts are not just oddities, they're windows into the raw beginnings of a faith still defining itself. They show a world where the meaning of Christian was hotly debated. Understanding them is crucial to understanding the roots of Christianity. They are a testament to a faith in flux. To understand the lost books, we must return to the 1st and 2nd centuries, a time of immense religious energy. The Roman Empire connected diverse peoples and ideas, creating a vibrant marketplace of beliefs. Judaism itself was a tapestry of sects and movements, each with its own hopes and interpretations. Early Christians drew on these traditions, seeing Jesus as the fulfillment of ancient promises. Greek philosophy and apocalyptic expectations fueled new writings and interpretations. Every new gospel or letter was written with urgency, preserving Jesus' memory and preparing for the end. The lost books reflect a world where faith was dynamic, creative, and contested. They remind us that the story of the Bible is still being uncovered. Who wrote these texts? For most, we don't know for sure. Most were written anonymously, a common practice to claim authority. Each author had a theological agenda. They were believers writing for their communities, addressing problems, and defending their faith. The Gospel of Mary, for example, elevates female leadership. These texts often responded to conflict within the Christian movement. As groups clashed over questions, books became weapons. Groups believing in esoteric wisdom produced texts like the Gospel of Thomas. The infancy Gospel of Thomas fills a narrative gap about Jesus' childhood. Other texts, like the Gospel of Judas, were written by alienated groups. These lost books, like great religious literature, grapple with profound questions. Where did we come from? Why is there suffering? What happens after death? How can we connect with the divine? They represent humanity's search for meaning in a complex world, filling in blanks left by familiar scriptures. The Book of Enoch explains evil with fallen angels and forbidden arts. Apocalyptic texts offer hope with visions of heaven, hell, and final judgment. These practical documents inspire and sustain faith, helping people navigate life's challenges. The disappearance of early Christian texts was often deliberate, beginning not with fire, but with words. As Christianity grew, so did disagreements. Leaders saw diverse gospels as a threat to unity, believing in one truth and one set of scriptures. Other versions were discredited. Early church fathers became gatekeepers, waging a literary war against texts they deemed heretical. Irenaeus, in Against Heresies, meticulously catalogued opposing beliefs like those he called Gnostics, only to tear their arguments apart. This campaign of condemnation was effective. They created lists of acceptable and unacceptable books, drawing clear lines. A condemned book was marked for oblivion, labeled as fictions, poisoning the well for future generations. Defining heresy was a powerful tool for suppression. Once labeled heretical, texts were excommunicated, no longer sacred, and believers were warned to avoid them. The war of words was the first and perhaps most critical step toward being lost and forgotten. The verbal condemnations of the 2nd and 3rd centuries took on a new, more dangerous dimension in the 4th century. This was when the Roman Empire, which had once persecuted Christians, underwent a stunning transformation. The Emperor Constantine converted to Christianity, and suddenly the Church had the immense power of the state at its disposal. The theological disagreements that were once internal debates among competing Christian groups now became matters of imperial policy. Orthodoxy was no longer just a preferred belief system, it was becoming the law of the land, and heresy was becoming a crime against the state. With this newfound power, church leaders could move from simply condemning books to actively destroying them. Constantine himself set the precedent. After the Council of Nicaea in 325 CE, which established the orthodox doctrine of the Trinity, Constantine ordered that the writings of his theological opponent, Arius, be burned. He decreed that anyone found hiding these books, rather than turning them over to be destroyed, would be put to death. This was a turning point. The power to define scripture now came with the power to eradicate all alternatives. The pen was now backed by the sword, and the bonfire became a new tool of theological debate. This policy of suppression continued and intensified under subsequent Christian emperors. In 367 CE, the powerful Bishop Athanasius of Alexandria wrote his annual Easter letter. In it, he listed the 27 books that he considered to be the definitive New Testament, the exact same 27 books found in the New Testament today. He then went on to explicitly warn his followers against all other apocryphal books, which he called an invention of heretics. Historians believe that this letter may have directly led to the hiding of the Nag Hammadi library as monks in a nearby monastery, fearing their precious but non-canonical books would be destroyed, sealed them in a jar, and buried them for safekeeping. The destruction was not always so dramatic. In many cases it was a slow and quiet process of neglect. As the Orthodox canon became more firmly established, scribes in monasteries simply stopped copying the books that were not on the approved list. Papyrus and parchment are fragile materials. Without constant recopying, a text could crumble into dust within a few generations. By choosing which books to copy and which to let fade away, the monastic scriptoriums became the silent enforcers of orthodoxy. A book didn't always need to be burned to be forgotten, it just needed to be ignored. While many books were deliberately suppressed, others simply fell victim to time. The ancient world was a harsh environment for delicate manuscripts. Wars, fires, floods, and decay were constant threats. It deteriorates quickly in the damp climates of Europe and Asia Minor. Only in the dry conditions of the Egyptian desert could papyrus survive for centuries. It's really a geographical accident of preservation. As the Church's theological concerns shifted, so did its reading habits. Their relevance faded, their readership dwindled. This combination of deliberate suppression, accidental destruction, and neglect created a powerful filter. The books that survived to form our modern Bible were in many ways the lucky ones, leaving behind tantalizing gaps in the historical record. The Bible wasn't fully formed, it was the product of a long process of decision-making. This process is known as the formation of the canon. The biblical canon is the list of books that a religious community accepts as its authoritative scripture. For the early Christians, creating this list was one of the most important tasks they faced. The need for a fixed canon arose because the first few centuries produced a flood of texts, creating confusion. Leaders felt a need to provide clarity and protect their followers. Another catalyst was conflict with other groups like Marcion, who created his own Bible. To counter this, they had to define their own canon. Furthermore, the threat of persecution by the Roman Empire played a role, forcing Christians to decide which books were worth dying for. The canon was forged in the fires of persecution. As the church grew, especially after Emperor Constantine, major decisions were made through church councils. These gatherings of bishops settled disputes and established policy. These councils formalized conversations about which books were sacred. The Council of Nicaea is often mistakenly credited with creating the Bible. Its main purpose was to establish the doctrine of the Trinity. By defining orthodoxy, the council created a theological filter for evaluating books. Later, councils in North Africa took up the question of the canon more directly. These councils produced lists of canonical books for the Old and New Testaments. Their New Testament list is identical to the 27 books accepted today. Key factors included apostolicity, universality, and orthodoxy. Even after the 4th century councils, the biblical canon's boundaries remained fluid. Different Christian communities had slightly different lists of accepted books. Some hesitated to accept Revelation. Universal acceptance was slow. There was no single moment when the Bible was officially closed. Athanasius of Alexandria's list of 27 New Testament books gradually became standard. It met the criteria of apostolicity, Catholicity, and orthodoxy. The question of the canon was famously reopened during the Reformation. Martin Luther re-evaluated the traditional list. He removed the Old Testament Apocrypha. This is why Protestant Bibles are shorter. The Catholic Church responded at the Council of Trent, affirming their traditional canon, including the Apocrypha. This act drew a firm line separating Catholic and Protestant Bibles. The making of the modern Bible was a long, evolving story. A human process that forged the most influential book the world has ever known. For over 1,500 years, the alternative gospels and secret teachings of Gnostic Christianity were known almost exclusively through the harsh condemnations of their Orthodox opponents. But then, in December of 1945, near Nag Hammadi in Upper Egypt, an astonishing discovery changed everything. An Egyptian farmer struck something hard with his mattock. It was a large sealed earthenware jar. Inside there was no gold, but 13 ancient books. These books contained a library of 52 texts written in the Coptic language. It was a near-disastrous start for one of the greatest archaeological discoveries of the 20th century. When experts finally began to translate these texts, they were stunned. Here was a complete copy of the Gospel of Thomas and the Gospel of Philip. The Nag Hammadi Library was a time capsule, a direct window into the world of Gnostic Christianity. These texts revealed that Gnostics believed the material world was a prison, and that Jesus was a divine messenger. For the first time, scholars could study these beliefs directly from the source. As the world absorbed the Nag Hammadi discovery, another monumental find occurred. In 1947, a Bedouin shepherd searching for a lost goat tossed a rock into a dark opening among the cliffs of the Dead Sea. He heard shattering pottery. Inside a cave, he and a friend found tall clay jars. One contained ancient scrolls wrapped in linen, the Dead Sea Scrolls. Hundreds more were found in nearby caves. Unlike the Christian Nag Hammadi texts, these were Jewish, written in Hebrew, Aramaic, and Greek. Hidden around 68 CE, they belonged to the Essenes at Qumran, who sought to protect their sacred library from the Romans. The scrolls contained the oldest known manuscripts of the Hebrew Bible. They also included the community's own writings, previously unknown to the modern world. These texts opened a window into the diverse world of Judaism during the time of Jesus. The Nag Hammadi Library and the Dead Sea Scrolls were historical bombshells that reshaped our understanding of early Christianity and ancient Judaism. For centuries, our picture of this period had been painted by the winners of history, the Orthodox Christians and the Rabbinic Jews. These discoveries gave us access to the perspectives of the losers, the groups whose ideas were suppressed. Suddenly, History was no longer a straight line but a complex web of competing movements and beliefs. The Nag Hammadi text revealed that early Christianity was a chaotic and creative explosion of different interpretations of Jesus. The Gnostic Gospels showed us a Christianity where the focus was on illusion and enlightenment. Similarly, the Dead Sea Scrolls revolutionized our understanding of the Jewish world in which Jesus lived. These revelations enrich and complicate the Bible's historical context, showing us that the Bible is a product of history. Our journey through the world of the lost books of the Bible comes to a close, but the mystery and fascination they hold are far from over. For centuries these texts were buried, suppressed, and erased from memory. The story of their disappearance and rediscovery is a reminder that history is often written by the victors. The enduring power of these lost books lies in their ability to provoke profound questions about the Bible and the origins of faith. These books survive and fascinate because they address the core human needs, the need for meaning, the longing for hope, and the quest to understand our place in the universe. Ultimately, the lost books are not just about the past, they are about the present, challenging us to think critically about authority and sacred texts. The discovery of these forgotten scriptures has reopened an ancient conversation, inviting a new generation to explore the roads not taken. The rediscovery of lost books has redrawn the map of our religious history. It replaces a simple story with a vibrant, chaotic picture. Early Christianity was a marketplace of ideas. Communities wrestled with Jesus' legacy, expressing unique understandings. The Orthodox Church was just one group that succeeded in making its voice dominant. This richer context enriches faith by providing a deeper, more honest understanding. The New Testament wasn't a foregone conclusion. The 27 books were survivors of a difficult selection. This allows a more inclusive view, hearing the voices of heretics and recognizing the humanity in different beliefs. This richer, more complicated history is more accurate, showing diversity, conflict, and evolution. The lost books reveal the incredible diversity of a faith in its infancy. The story of the lost books of the Bible is far from over. The discoveries at Nag Hammadi and Qumran were monumental, but they have only whetted our appetite for more. Archaeologists continue to dig in the sands of Egypt and the deserts of the Middle East, hoping to unearth the next great library. Scholars continue the painstaking work of translating, interpreting, and publishing the texts we already have, a process that can take decades. Each new fragment, each newly deciphered line, has the potential to add another piece to the puzzle, further illuminating the lost worlds of ancient Judaism and Christianity. This ongoing quest is fueled by the knowledge that so much is still missing. We know from the writings of the Church Fathers that there were many other Gospels and texts that have not yet been found. What happened to the Gospel of the Hebrews or the Gospel of the Egyptians? What other secrets might be hidden in the vast, unexcavated portions of the Judean wilderness? The possibility of finding another text as revolutionary as the Gospel of Thomas or the Book of Enoch keeps the search alive. The ground beneath our feet may still hold words that could once again transform our understanding of the past. Beyond the search for new manuscripts, the intellectual quest also continues. The meaning and significance of these texts are still being debated fiercely in universities, seminaries, and online forums. What do they tell us about the historical Jesus? How do they change our understanding of the Apostle Paul? Can the heretical ideas of the Gnostics offer valuable insights for people today? These are not questions with easy answers. The lost books do not provide a new, secret truth to replace the old one. Instead, they invite us into an ongoing dialogue, a process of questioning and discovery that is at the heart of any genuine search for knowledge. The greatest revelation from the lost books may be the realization that our history is a living thing, constantly being revised and enriched by new discoveries. The past is not sealed. It can speak to us in new and unexpected ways. The voices from the Nag Hammadi codices and the Dead Sea Scrolls have broken a silence of nearly 2 millennia, and their echoes are still reshaping our world. They remind us to stay curious, to question assumptions, and to always be ready for the next revelation that may be waiting just beneath the surface to be exposed.